as a healthcare provider providing care to women's health and pregnant people, it's really discouraging to hear some of the comments that have been made around healthcare. And I think it's really impacting women's healthcare choice and authority over their own bodies.
Closer look on this Wednesday. Little disappointed in my Blue Jays, as you are your Tigers.
Yes.
What the hell is going on?
Yeah, we really try not to banter about baseball at the top of every show because we could talk baseball every day, but we're 5 days away from the season being over. The Jays, your team, the Jays, are still trying to win their division.
1 game lead.
My team, the Tigers, have completely flopped in the last 2 months.
That is wild.
They went from like a 15.5 game lead in the Central to being tied as of tonight. So we'll see. 5 games left.
Who are you playing tonight?
Cleveland tonight.
Cleveland tonight.
Guys, who do you?
We have Boston, game 2 of 3 at Rogers Center.
Yep.
Questionable call last night.
I heard.
That could have changed the outcome, but
I heard. Speaking of questionable calls, President Trump.
President Trump at it again, making so I guess it was back during COVID when he suggested at a press conference that if you somehow injected blue light into your body, or even better, disinfectant, you'd be cured of COVID.
I remember that press conference. There was a scientific, like a health official. I can't remember her name.
Yes.
But she was just standing there looking horrified at his.
Do you remember her doing
something like that?
One of these?
Yeah. Now this week he's linking autism spectrum disorder to the use of Tylenol by pregnant women, which just is insane. Considering what we know about the scientific evidence. And it's just caused such a, as you can imagine, a tailspin of questions, and Tylenol stock plummeted. Now it's gone back up a little bit. Health Canada this morning came out with a very strong rebuttal saying this is all the evidence we have says that Tylenol is safe to take by pregnant women. They've been taking it for decades. So, for Health Canada to come out that quickly and put out a statement is pretty strong. We're going to talk about it a little bit today as well with an expert who knows a thing or two about treating pregnant women through a doctor at the Ottawa hospital. And I think it's one of those conversations where I don't know. The scary part of these conversations is you hope that it educates people, makes a little difference, but the bottle, pardon the pun, has been opened, right? And I don't know, these kind of things, when you have these kind of pieces of misinformation that go so viral, people are going to believe this for years. You have to think people are going to believe this for years, no matter how many experts come out and say it's not true.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's get some clarity with Dr. Dareen Elchar. On Monday, U.S. President Trump suggesting that a link exists between autism and acetaminophen, the active ingredient in Tylenol. And it's raised some concerns within the scientific community. Joining us tonight to talk about it is Dr. Dareen Elchar, a staff physician, a maternal fetal medicine physician at the Ottawa Hospital, and an associate professor at the University of Ottawa. Doctor, thanks for joining us tonight. We appreciate your time.
Yeah, no, thanks. I'm happy to be here.
All right, Doctor, this isn't the first time that the U.S. president has gone on record in saying something controversial where healthcare is concerned. For the record, what is the current medical and scientific consensus on the use of acetaminophen, the active ingredient in Tylenol, during pregnancy?
Yeah, the current statement is there has been no scientific evidence that shows that there is any associations or causation of harm, or as suggested by the current announcement, associated with ADHD, autism, or neurodevelopmental disorders. There has been, so many studies that have looked at this. We have revisited this when different papers were reviewed. And obviously, as a scientific community, it is important to pay attention to any signals. And there has been no new evidence to suggest that there is any causation.
I know it's only been a couple of days, but what are patients asking or saying to you following the president's comments?
Yeah, it's a mix. I have patients who have not changed anything with regards to what we do. I also want to remind people that in general, when we take care of our pregnant patients, we're not, our first line isn't to look at medication. We try to look at all alternative ways to alleviate the concerns or any presentation they have. But obviously there's people with pre-existing conditions who we need to make sure that they're stable. So nothing has changed for most that understand how we work. There has been some questions when we've talked about it for alleviating alleviating pain or fever, but has been, to be honest, fairly simple at this time. It's only been a few days to address their questions when we look at the evidence together.
Mm-hmm. Doctor, what goes through your mind when you see a comment like that, say from President Trump or anyone else pushing this total misinformation? I mean, maybe for some people they can just laugh it off or dismiss it, but it's very serious when someone of that stature makes something like that. What goes through your mind when you see it?
To be honest, for me, it wasn't at all something I could laugh off. So I was very disappointed and worried for patients. I think of patients that I follow. I'm a high-risk pregnancy physician. That's what maternal fetal medicine means. And so they have pre-existing conditions and suffer pain or have conditions that need some support. And Tylenol, as a very simple first-line relief of pain, is important. And so I think about the guilt that this may bring to them if they did happen to have a diagnosis that came up for their children. And so this has been something that I think of. I think of the fears that it has placed, the misinformation, some extra work that comes up for us to talk about this versus focusing on important issues related to their pregnancy care.
Absolutely.
So those were some of the thoughts that crossed my mind.
Absolutely, Doctor. And I assume the worst fear is that someone would listen to this advice and change what they're doing, and maybe something worse could happen.
That is definitely the fear I have. And the fear I have is that patients aren't comfortable talking to us about this so that we can support them through this decision-making and getting their information elsewhere. I often just remind patients, that's what we're here for. Please feel free to ask us questions, and we will help guide you through any decision-making towards your pregnancy. Yes, there's some great information and learning online, but to be careful when we're processing that.
Doctor, I don't want to dwell on the misinformation or the disinformation, but there has to be a huge impact. And of course, I mean, this comment coming from a guy who a few years ago during COVID said that injecting a disinfectant could help. From somebody in such a high-ranking position, what's the impact of that misinformation?
But it's so hard to see. I know what you're referring to. I remember seeing that and going, wow, like that's a big statement to make with such assertiveness and confidence. To be honest, I'm a scientist. I do research. This is what I do, also part of and I would not make any when we make a recommendation, we say, so far, the studies lead us to show that there is no association based on what we found. This is how the scientific community speaks. So the language we're hearing is really not what we're seeing. So the impact is harmful for our healthcare providers, the trusting relationship that is affected by patients who may believe this because they look up to these political individuals who probably have, a skill set that's really important for the position that they're in, but maybe the healthcare part has been, a little bit of a far stretch for their expertise and knowledge. If I may say.
You're right, Doctor. We've talked about this on the show in the past, Doctor. My kids are a little bit older, but when we were having kids, my peer group talked a lot about the vaccines and the concerns about autism because that was the misinformation that was out there. And it was a discussion by, I think, every friend or relative that was having kids at the same time, right? Just showing that even though that had been widely debunked, that wasn't true, it was still something everybody talked about. My worry is that now that this is the same thing. Tylenol, don't take Tylenol if you're pregnant because it could cause autism. Yeah. Do you worry that that same lingering effect could happen here?
Absolutely. We're still, although that was been debunked and that paper that caused some of that misinformation has been retracted, people still refer to that and think, well, maybe it was a whole conspiracy. Like that's something I've heard. And that's something that it's all led by pharmaceutical companies influencing healthcare. I want to just say I practice in Canada. I am publicly funded service. I have received no funds from pharmaceutical companies. My goal is to just help our patients and guide them through decision making.
Absolutely.
Doctor, if you had the opportunity, what would you say to President Trump and certainly Robert Kennedy, who was at that press conference, and even Dr. Oz?
Really big wish list. I think that the statement that I would like to make is as a healthcare provider providing care to women's health and pregnant people, it's really discouraging to hear some of the comments that have been made around healthcare. And I think it's really impacting women's healthcare choice and authority over their own bodies. That is something that has come up. I have to be honest, when I saw the press release with the three of them standing there, I couldn't reflect on how that looks like for women empowerment and decision-making. So that's something I would share and focus on.
That's a great point.
Yes.
Doctor, this might sound like a dumb question. I apologize because I often stop and think, you want to give up sometimes when you see the stuff that's coming out in the world, the things people are saying and things people are believing. And in your shoes, like you said, dealing with high-risk pregnancies and patients, are there some days where you just wonder, how do I keep doing this with the amount of stuff that's coming out?
It barely crosses my mind, and this is going to sound really tacky. I love what I do.
Yeah,
I happen to have found something that I really love. Is it harder to do our jobs these days? Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
It's a challenge. Like I shook my head, and I just want to be really honest. Like I had to talk about this when there was the announcement by Robert F. Kennedy Jr. about the COVID-19 vaccines a few months ago. I love chatting with you guys. You're very nice. This is a fantastic conversation. But are we going to do this every 3 months when something is said by authorities who I don't think have the right information for this at this time so far, are the announcements that we've been hearing, and having to debunk and create a little bit of extra work for us in healthcare who want to focus on the stuff we love.
Yeah. Not through every 3 months, Just going to be once a week. We talked about with your media representative there.
That's what another reporter told me. And I was like, oh, we keep chatting about this stuff.
That's right. It's going to be a new weekly podcast with you and us.
Yeah.
So, yeah. I think the other thing I wanted to ask, I don't know if maybe you're able to answer this, but part of the challenge, too, I think, is because autism cases are on the rise and people don't really know. I don't think the scientific community knows yet what's causing it. That adds to this too, right? That we don't have those answers.
Yeah, that's a great point, and I reflect that. I'm not a pediatrician or specialist in these, but I can reflect with you on what I think is likely going on here. First, we're much more aware. We are now making the diagnoses versus in the past. I don't think these were recognized and followed. Reality is the etiology or reasons why someone may be diagnosed with autism or ADHD and neurodevelopmental disorders is wide: genetics, environmental, different potential exposures, other conditions. So I think we're just better at evaluating and recognizing and having people make the diagnosis is my input. I also just want to say that something that's been really challenging for me is to make sure that people know that these are not always negative diagnosis. I don't like the label of negativeness around this currently right now. I really empathizes with family who have children or now young adults with these conditions that are probably amazing people and feel maybe targeted by this suggestion that we need to, find all reasons to eliminate people with these. I just don't like I hope I've explained myself, but I think we have to reflect on what's the dialogue here.
I very much appreciate you saying that's a great point, and I'm glad you brought that up. Thank you so much, Doctor.
Doctor, unlike who we saw Monday in the U.S., you are a true authority and expert, and we know you're tight for time. So before we let you go, is there anything that we didn't cover tonight that you'd like to mention?
No, it's a great conversation. I want to remind people that we do have excellent science for now that tells us that there is safety for using of Tylenol. The paper that all of us in the scientific community refer to as the 2024 JAMA, which is a great paper on the sibling longer-term follow-up studies of 24 years that found no association with use of acetaminophen and autism. So I think people need to know that that's the best evidence we have so far. And the best trials that we would like to do to have the correct answers will not be something we can do. I think that's important to let people know and have a conversation with your healthcare provider when you are looking at different things and not seek out social media.
Absolutely. All right. Very well said. There's Dr. Doreen Elchar from the Ottawa Hospital. Doctor, thanks for debunking and providing some much needed clarity tonight. We appreciate your time.
Great. Thank you.
Okay, so imagine you've got a former talk show host in Dr. Mehmet Oz, you've got Robert Kennedy Jr., and you've got the former host of The Apprentice, which aired on NBC. That guy becomes the president of the United States, and they're making an announcement and decisions where healthcare is concerned.
Yeah.
Affecting millions worldwide.
There's no words to describe that, right? And the ripple effect that this is going to have.
Yeah.
Pardon the pun, but how you put it back in the bottle, right? The bottle's been open, and millions and millions of people are going to say, okay, President Trump said I shouldn't be taking Tylenol while I'm pregnant, so I'm not going to. And him saying that women should fight like hell not to take it if they're feeling pain is just a crazy thing to say. But, I always say this. I say this a lot at the end of our show. I love the conversations we have with people who know what they're talking about.
Yes.
And that's what we're doing today. So hopefully people who watch the show, listen to the show today, learned a little bit and can put their mind at ease and just understand that there are still very intelligent, well-researched people who know what they're doing and who are treating patients across the country. It's nice to see.
Nice to hear from a voice of reason versus who we heard from Monday night in the U.S. Okay, it's baseball time. We're running a little late. We've got games to watch. Certainly, you've got things to do as well, but we appreciate you stopping by to check out Closer Look this evening. For Michael Friscolanti, our editor-in-chief here at Village Media, I'm Scott Sexsmith. Go Jays! Go Tigers, I guess. We'll see you tomorrow night right here at 7 on Closer Look.
Frisco and Scott's Wardrobe provided in part by Moores, Sault Ste. Marie.